Bears, blog, boys, you know it all, computer, analytic, geeky nerds. Michael Schneider, Tom Cavanaugh, the Bear, blog, boys, know-it-alls, doing some podcast somewhere. Nobody wants to hear you. Geeks, you pencil-pushing, skinny jean-wearing geeks, you.
Coming to you live from our mama's basement, this is the Bears Blog Boys podcast. I'm your co-host, Tom Cavanaugh, here with my good buddy and other co-host, Michael Schneider. Schneider, it's been a minute since we talked. We haven't talked since the Super Bowl, so obviously the season has wrapped up. But, buddy, today we are starting our offseason, talking about the Bears offseason. How you feeling? How you been?
Good, brother. Hope you're doing well as well. This is probably my favorite time to talk Bears football. Obviously, the in-season, it's fun. But the offseason talk, I mean, this is how you build the consistent winner. This is what separates front offices and teams from the other. And I think more than ever, this is such a crucial offseason for the Bears. There's a lot of maneuvering. And I think this is the most excited probably I've ever been to dig deep into an offseason. There's a lot of intricate layers to this Bears offseason. So I'm super excited to get into it.
Yeah, they're definitely in a different and weird spot. Like I in seasons past, since we started this podcast, I started watching draft prospects around November because I know like it's over, right? The season's like far gone, and it's been the total opposite this year. Like I'm playing catch up. I'm trying to watch all these guys, and I just like don't have a great grasp of the class yet. I'm still trying to grind through some guys. So I think our draft coverage is going to be a little different this year. Same with you, Snyder. Like we have not, this has not been our attention at all. Like we've been thinking about the season. We've been thinking about the playoffs. And I think it's going to be, honestly, I think better this year that we can be a little bit more intimate with each of these players. Talk about the selective options at 25. It's not like we're having, like last year, I remember talking to you, Snyder, we could have picked so many different players at 10. We really did not know what direction they were going to go. We figured there were going to be a couple players off the board, but after those players, the door was really open. I don't think that's going to be the case this year. I think it's going to be a pretty selective group based on what the Bears need and based on what they do in free agency. So I think we'll talk about the whole draft class, but I think the discussions will be lengthier about certain players that fit and what the Bears need. And so it's hard not to watch the Super Bowl and look what Seattle's defense was able to do. Their defensive line, just being able to take over that game and have the Patriots so spooked that they could bring whatever pressures they wanted to because they knew they could just wreck the game up front. And that's basically why they kicked ass that entire game. The Patriots just could not handle them up front. They couldn't pass off the correct blitzes. They couldn't pass off the correct pressures. They couldn't hold up in one-on-ones. I mean, the clips have been going around of Will Campbell really struggling. And obviously you love the Bears offense and what they were able to do. But when you see a team that's able to just kick ass and demoralize you in the trenches like that, I feel like that's where we have to start our offseason coverage with the interior defensive line.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. Yeah, watching that Super Bowl just real quick, it was like, yes, the defensive line obviously dominated them. But it just had Drake May so flustered, right? Mm-hmm. He had to get rid of the ball way quicker than he had to, and then he just threw up some prayers, and you've seen the interceptions, but then you've seen the inaccuracies with them. Just totally had him so uncomfortable, right? And then they're being exotic with it. Like you've seen like Devon Witherspoon blitzing inside, beating one of their interior offensive linemen one-on-one, and then pressuring and sacking the quarterback. Like that is just insane stuff. Really haven't seen a complete defensive performance from like the front and the back level. I can't remember when. I know it's recency bias. I've seen dominant performances like Aaron Donald and Von Miller, but I haven't seen a complete defensive game plan and just total domination start to finish from every layer. So that was pretty incredible to see.
It was incredible to see. And it was even more incredible, Snyder, that they roll like 8 deep on the D-line. Like they have like 8 different guys that can legitimately win on one-on-ones, and they all kind of complement each other. And I'm not saying the Bears can achieve that this year. I don't know if that's really possible where they can get that not even star-studded. I guess that effective of a defensive line rotation. But I think they definitely, I mean, it's already been coming out. Brad Biggs said that's going to be their number one priority to get a stronger defensive line. I was looking yesterday, Center, just kind of Dennis Allen's past as a defensive coordinator, and like who is he wanted to be? Like what structurally like does he want his defense to be? And from 2021 to 2024, and granted, I probably should have split the season from when Dennis Allen was defensive coordinator in 2024 because I know he was fired in the season, but they were amongst like the lowest teams in blitz rate, right? They were like, I think anywhere from like 18 to 26th in blitz rate. Last year, they were 12th. So I think that was very much a pivot to we cannot be the team we want to be. And we're going to start blitzing to get pressure because this 4-man rush thing isn't working out. And I think that like to Dennis Allen's core, he's going to be wanted to be a 4-down-and-go defense. And that's going to start with improving this defensive line, especially on the interior, not only the pass rush, but the run defense as well, because Dennis Allen also a lot of 2-eye coverages. And there's a clip that's been going around Twitter, Mike McDonald saying, if you can defend the run, and this is the whole philosophy of their defense and why they're so good, if you can defend the run with 2-eye safeties, that's some really high-powered stuff. The Bears can't defend the run with 1-eye safety. Like the Bears just can't defend the run. They struggled to do it all year. I know they had their moments, and I think that starts right down the middle with their interior defensive line center. If you just look at the grades, look at the statistics against run defense, this was one of the worst interior defensive line groups against the run in the entire league. I mean, their highest graded run defender on the interior had a 55 grade. Grady Jarrett, 42 run defense grade. Gervin Dexter, 42.8. Andrew Billings, 37.5. It is just not a very stout group at all.
No, and it's rough. I mean, the writing was on the wall. Like you said, that blitz number is something that Dennis Allen never did in his entire coaching career. And then, I mean, you've seen the games, right, against the 49ers. You've seen the games against the Lions, that first half against the Packers. And then even though the Bears, I think Dennis Allen was in his bag against the Rams game, but the head coach had no trust in the defense, in particular the defensive line, I would say, that kept going in for 4th and down. Weren't taking the points, right? Because he had no faith. Now they did have a performance, but you can't rely on that, right? To be sustainable through and through. So I mean, those decisions by Ben Johnson to be that aggressive throughout this playoff run, and even it was against the Packers when he goes for it like on 4th down, like on their 35-yard line, that's crazy. But I think that was just an indictment in what they think of this defense. So yeah, that needs to be the number one center of attention there.
100%. And, you know, when you're looking at the types of players the Bears have and like what Dennis Allen wants, like, I don't think this is the offseason where, and we're going to talk about a draft prospect at the end of the show. I don't think this is the offseason where you just load up on big space eaters that can't move. Like, that's not who Dennis Allen has typically wanted to be. He wants to have guys that can get upfield, get in the backfield. So obviously run defense in general for that type of style is going to be a little bit more hit or miss, but I don't think there was nearly enough hits. And I think when you look at Grady Jarrett at his best, he was that style of player, right? He was pass rushing first, could win one-on-ones, extremely explosive, extremely athletic. That's just not who he is anymore. He's always been spotty against the run, but if you're not getting those positive plays against the pass to offset some of the hit or missness in the run, there's really no reason to leave him out there, right? Like that's kind of his whole calling card. And he's an undersized guy, right? He's not going to hold up well against double teams. He's not going to hold up one-on-one against the run. Gervin Dexter, I think you have seen growth as a pass rusher. He does have his moments. You thought he would be a little bit better against the run based on how he was in college. But Snyder, my whole evaluation of him was he plays so upright. He plays so high. And I don't know if that's ever going to change. He's a tall guy, right? He's like 6'6". And you saw it in moments in college against double teams. He's just getting blown right back because he cannot get lower than the double teams. He can't really stick his feet in the ground because he's playing so high. And not only that, it's like such a harmful combination of not only does he play high, but he also has really short arms. So he can't really control blocks even when he does fire out with good pad level because he has such short arms. So with Gervin Dexter, I think it's the same discussion. Like, is he offsetting the bad run defense? Because the run defense is bad. Like, I don't know what else to say at this point. It is bad. Is he offsetting that enough with his pass rushing? I don't think he is. Like, I'm not going into the season like just rolling with him as the starter. If you can find better out there, we'll talk about the option that they'll have. I think you have to consider upgrading.
Yeah, that's I seen someone's tweet a while ago that he is the Cole Kmet of the defensive line for the Bears. Is he solid? Yeah. But is he actually a down-to-down difference maker? Is he impactful? No, right? He's okay, right? He belongs in the NFL. He's shown flashes. He is a contributor, but I think now's that time where us Bears fans need to understand like what's at stake, right? The standards are higher, right? You're so used to missing on the draft. You're so used to having just an awful team that you see guys like, again, a few years ago, Cole Kmet was a bright spot on a bad team, right? Javon Dexter, the past couple of years, shown flashes of contributing, but how consistent is he? How impactful is he? Now, when the standards are like, hey, you're trying to win the NFC North, it's still a bloodbath of the division. You're trying to win playoff games and make a deep run. The Javon Dexters of the world just don't cut it, right? On that starting lineup. So you got to have a tough conversation. I get he was a second round pick. You're probably going to have a little bit of allegiance to him because of that pedigree. But again, you have to evaluate these guys to where your goal is to make it to a Super Bowl. To where maybe a few years ago you were just looking for bright spots in a pile of shit. And I'm sorry to say that, but now again with the standards a lot higher, you have to really evaluate these guys individually with a magnifying glass, with the expectations of like, hey, it's win the division, make a deep playoff run.
No doubt about it. They're different standards for sure. Like when you were rebuilding, you had the grace to kind of allow Gervin Dexter to grow, and we all knew. Look, second round picks are obviously high investments. Don't get me wrong, but there's a reason they're going in the second round. Like they're not finished products. They definitely need development in some regards a lot of the time. And Gervin Dexter, he was like the total developmental guy, unreal athleticism, like for that size, especially like when it clicked, you saw like an unbelievable size speed athlete for this position. The problem is like the consistency, like everything you just brought up, consistency, football IQ, all that stuff needed to grow. And we have seen growth. It's just, this is going to be year 4 now. Are we really expecting him to become like a top 12 or 15 player at his position? I think that'd be a bit ambitious based on what we've seen so far. There's been growth as a pass rusher specifically. I think you've seen he's had his moments. He can win one-on-ones. I wouldn't say consistently, but like at a decent clip. And that's valuable. But is he just anything more than like more of a rotational guy or like probably your worst starter on the defensive line? Like that's kind of the question you need to be asking yourself. I think to count on him to kind of anchor the middle of your defense, that's where I think I'm not as sold on. And I think it's the conversation's easier because you probably need to replace Grady Jarrett anyway, and he'll probably still get another shot at this thing to really grow into this role, to really take that next leap, to be consistent, every down impact player. But I just think that really on the defensive line, we'll talk about the edges on another episode. There's really no one that should be safe based on how bad it was this year. I tweeted out yesterday, Snyder, because I saw someone tweet that the defensive line shouldn't be priority 1 based on all the other needs the Bears have. The Bears were 25th in pass rush grade. They were 27th in pass pressure rate, and they were 32nd in time to pressure. I mean, this was about as bad of a performance across the season as you could possibly get.
See, Tom, and that's the frustrating thing about Javon Dexter, right? With his size and athleticism, he's supposed to have a high floor as a run defender, right? He should, because of his size, athleticism, explosiveness, he should be able to clog up running lanes. He should have that high motor against the run and be able to kind of seek it out, right? But you're not getting that floor in the run defense with him to allow him to grow as a pass rusher. So that's the frustrating thing. At this point, I mean, going into the season, you were hoping Javon Dexter was kind of like your primary down-to-down guy in the interior. You knew Grady Jarrett was kind of like is who he is, but you knew he would probably be better on like your pass rush situations, right? And he'd be rotated in because he's older, keep him fresh, and you thought maybe get some value there, right? You thought Andrew Billings would be that run clogger like he was. He kind of fell off a little bit there. So,
and he's a free agent too, and I doubt he's going to be brought back.
Exactly. So, like, going into last season, you're kind of counting on Gervon Dexter to be that, like, main snap getter, that main interior dude. And then the other guys were kind of going to be primarily rotated in. So that's just a little bit disappointing that at this point in his career, you only really feel good about him being a rotation guy. Again, he is very young. He might get a second contract to kind of stick around. I don't know. He'll be on his last year going into this season. But that's the one thing that's got a little bit frustrating about Gervon Dexter. Not a bad player by any means. He is a contributor. I think just you thought a little bit more, but I guess like the main conversation we're having here is we need to put a lot of resources into this position still, even though you have a guy you thought would be a little bit further in his progression.
You that's the way you ended that was perfect. You thought he'd be further along. You thought he'd be a more consistent player. And I think the run defense is just like aerodynamically how he's built. I think he's just always going to struggle. Like, I think he doesn't get moved like on 1v1 situations. He doesn't get moved off the ball because he's so big and so strong. Like, even if he has bad pad level, you're not like moving him, but on double teams and just his overall impact, like, can he control the block? Can he two gap? Can he stack, shed his guy? I don't know. Like, I don't think that's going to be a really like high level part of his game because, again, he plays really high and his arms are short. That's just a bad combination. And I'm looking at some of the stats, Snyder. Average depth of tackle. I love this stat from PFF against the run. If you don't believe in their grades, that's one thing. I think this is a great stat because if you think about where interior defensive linemen play on the field, they're right on the line of scrimmage, right? So that average depth of tackle number should be really low if they're doing their job and they're playing the run effectively. The player with the worst average depth of tackle was Chris Williams, a Bear, rotational defensive lineman, who had a 6. So 6 yards, but down the field was his average depth of target. Or I'm sorry, average depth of tackle. Andrew Billings was 5th worst. Grady Jarrett was 14th worst, and then Gervon Dexter was at 2. He was a little better, but his number was at 2.8. Right, that number should be like below 1, and it's at 2.8. That just goes to show you like everyone is allowing run plays to go right by them. And also another thing with Gervon Dexter, his missed tackle number is really high. He's just not been able to finish as a pass rusher or as a run defender. 15.9% missed tackle rate. That is not going to cut it. And that kind of makes sense with how he's built. Again, he's really tall. He leaves his feet. He's on the ground. Like, I think this is just like, might just be who he is. And again, I still think he's going to get another shot this year. But when you're considering what the Bears should be looking for moving forward, I think you can learn from, you can't just draft athletes at this position. You need to draft guys that know what they're doing, or maybe quicker to diagnose against the run. If they have limitations, they at least know exactly where to be given the offense's formation. Can they read plays out? Is their football IQ high? I think you can learn from some of the sins that they've made in the past.
Yeah, I like that you say that, right? Because I think the one thing that really, we'll talk about this, I'm not going to go super deep into it. It's like the combine, right? Like, you look at like the Senior Bowl stuff, you look at the combine stuff, and a lot of these guys' athleticism gets very measured. I'm not saying it's not important or anything, right? But you look at a guy like Gervon Dexter, insane athlete, combine warrior. Don't get me wrong, you talk about upside, right? Because if you can coach that guy, let him get the technical aspect of it, you almost strike gold, right? If you can kind of develop that guy. It almost reminds me of the way the Packers developed Rashawn Gary, right? Super raw, super Tracy, ended up working out. But they had that same mindset with like a Lucas Van Ness, and it hasn't worked out, right? So it's so hit or miss. There's so much risk there. And that's the thing, right? The IQ, the instinct, the technical aspect of it, able to square your feet on a run play and just get penetration on that guy. And with the Bears, I just noticed like all the way around it. I've noticed this with Sweat a lot. I know this was in an Edge episode, but I seen him he like set the edge, but then he'd get totally dangled, totally get cut on because his feet were like crossed with each other. And I seen that a lot with Gervon Dexter as well. So it's like in those like one-on-one run plays where you have the tackle, like their feet aren't square. So there's so many technical aspects against the run that I noticed with the defensive line is not there.
100%. No doubt about it. They're definitely like, and those are the things you're like hoping to get better, because those are the things you can improve, right, throughout your career. Like you're not going to get more athletic. You're not going to get shorter to play lower. Like you're going to have to improve on the technical aspects of the stuff that you can prepare for. And I think we have seen growth of, like, I don't want to just say it's been all bad for Gervin or for Javon, but like I think he's definitely added some pass rush moves to his repertoire, and you see some of that on tape. It's just I just think that there's some limitations there and some technical stuff that still has yet to be cleaned up. And it's like we're approaching year 4 now, and the Bears need a difference maker at this position. I'm not saying to get rid of Javon. I'm just saying that to count on him to be that difference maker, I think is maybe where you would be a little bit misguided. I don't know if that's the best bet. The thing also, I can't make any excuses for the Grady Jarrett. I don't know what you were expecting Grady Jarrett to be at the price that you paid him, other than like a situational pass rusher. We talked about that, Snyder. We talked about that when I think I had some time to kind of like digest the signing. Like if they're kind of drafting him to kind of tutor the younger guys and be more of that situational pass rusher, then I kind of see it, even though that's a healthy price tag for a third contract defensive lineman. But now he just looks like he's out of gas. Like I don't really know what you're expecting to get out of him. To me, Snyder, he shouldn't be in the plans at all. I'm not really counting on him to be other than just a rotational piece. If he's starting for this team next year, I think you're in a lot of trouble.
And it's frustrating, right? Like you understand, like the Ryan Poles era, he definitely prioritizes good dudes on and off the field, locker rooms. And I'm not saying that's not important, right? When you're paying a guy $17 million and he's on the wrong side of age 30, it makes you got to be a lot more sure that he is very good. He was coming off an injury. Falcons, I think at the time had a very bad defensive line. Had no issues letting him go. Say what you want about Ryan Pace and Terry Fontenot. I think that was the name of the GM. I thought they were pretty good at evaluating defensive line in their career. So to let him go, I do think said a lot. But we still paid him, and I think we paid him for the wrong reasons. And I hope that's maybe a lesson learned. The issue with that is the contract's not pretty. The way it was structured, I think they took a low cap hit this past year. So the cap hits are really high next year. A lot of guaranteed money there, not much flexibility to get out of it. So you're stuck with that contract for next year. And how we mentioned in a shell, you're a little bit disappointed in Gervon Dexter because you still have a lot of resources to throw at the position, right?
Yep.
But then you're also, paying a guy almost $20 million against the cap, and you still have to throw a lot of resources at it. That alone is just very, very frustrating because, like you said, we need difference makers. We need guys to you got to be elite somewhere, right? You got to be very good somewhere, if it's stopping the run or pass rushing. If you have to lose a little bit on either end, but you get the production on the other side, you could live with that, right? You could work around that. We're not getting it in any way. So again, it's frustrating that there is a lot of investments into this defensive tackle group, but it's still a position group that we're going to have to throw a lot of resources at to fix.
Yep, and we'll talk about kind of the different options. We can talk about those now, Snyder. I'm just looking at the different contracts given among the league and seeing if there's anybody worth trading for. And I know Jeffrey Simmons has been a very popular name that people throw out. I just think if he would have been, the Titans were interested in trading him, they probably would have traded him, right? I don't think they are. They have like $118 million in cap space. They're not in that dire of a situation to where like they're just totally rebuilding all the time. I think they had announced they want to keep Jeffrey Simmons. I just don't think that's really realistic. That would be awesome if you could figure out a way to trade for him. But I just don't really see that. A guy possibly, I think, could be available based on what they want to do this year. They're in a pretty tricky spot. He's older, but DeForest Buckner, he is a pretty flexible contract to move. And the Colts are in a pretty weird situation where they have to pay Daniel Jones. He's a free agent. What are they going to do there? Alec Pierce, a guy that really broke out for them, he's also a free agent. And then I think they're also losing their right tackle. So maybe that's a situation where if you want to just see what that would cost you if they're trying to dump his salary. Could you get him for a cheap amount of draft compensation? He'll be a lot on your cap probably. I'm looking at his average per year. Colts. He's probably a $23 million cap hit. So that's not like the most cheap option, but it is an option. He's still playing some good ball. So I don't know. There's not really a whole lot of obvious trade candidates in terms of improving this position.
I personally like going the trade route. I know a lot of people don't like losing capital, but if you could pay a little bit extra for a guy like DeForest Buckner, you could probably get the Colts to eat a big chunk of that salary cap. And then he comes. It's like when the Bears, I know it's a little bit different caliber of player, but when the Bears traded away Robert Quinn to the Eagles, the Bears took on the entirety of the salary cap. It converted to dead cap, and all the Eagles were on the hook for was a league minimum. So he was on the Eagles salary cap for like $900,000, and that's how the Bears maximized the return. I'm not saying pay a second round pick for DeForest Buckner, but you could get a little bit creative by leveraging that and exploring that way. It's not a bad process to do that. Get a guy who's a sure thing, is going to make an impact, and then you're paying him cap-wise, penny on the dollar. Yeah, you might have to give up a little bit more capital than you wanted, but my thing where the Bears are at as a team and where their goals are, that's probably a little bit more valuable to me than a third-round pick. If you have to toss in an extra $4, I think I do something like that just to get the sure thing, get a difference maker, and you're talking about a third and a $4. I could probably live with that. So it's something along the parameters of that. That's why I do like exploring the trade options. You create a lot of cap flexibility where you're getting production for almost pennies on the dollar.
For sure. It's definitely like I'm sure they're going to call around on guys. Like I don't doubt that. But there's not a whole lot of obvious answers in the trade market. I think for the edge market, there'll definitely be more names to talk about and regarding for trades. But like, who do you really like feel comfortable? I'm sure the Vikings would love to get out of Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargrave's contracts. Like, do you want to trade for either one of those guys? Probably not. Like, I think those guys probably have a better chance of just hitting the market. And if you want to go them as a rotational options, then sure. But in terms of like, I don't know. I just don't see it. I don't see a lot of great options here when it comes to finding a stud to trade for. And if you did like want to trade for like a Jeffrey Simmons, let's say for whatever this hypothetical, he'd be available. He's going to cost you a lot. Like that's not going to just be some easy willy-nilly trade. He's one of the best interior defensive linemen in the league. So I mean, I'm thinking like 2 firsts plus to get a guy like that. And I don't really know if I'd be in that business, but yeah, I mean, it's interesting to talk about. I'm sure some of these guys will hit the market too. Some of these guys I'm looking at, like Kenny Clark, will the Cowboys keep him around? I don't know. He's an interesting option again as a rotation. Again, the like Kenny Clark, Javon Hargrave, Jonathan Allen, like if those guys do hit the market, they should have been treated like Grady should have been treated, where it's like 1 year, $7 million.
Yeah.
Like don't like tie yourselves to these guys because it can go at any moment.
Tom, let me ask you. I know we talk about Trevon Dexter, Grady Jarrett. When you hear the Ryan Poles press conferences, and I think even prior to the season, he always talks about flexibility. He always talks about, maybe Dio's going to kick inside. Maybe Shamar Turner is going to kick inside. I personally am never really a fan of that because I think those dudes are too light to be inside. It doesn't solve your run on the fence thing. And I don't know. I just think it almost is it's like a tweener approach, right? It's like you're going to lose something by kicking those guys inside. So I don't really value that as much as like Ryan Poles says that. And I hope that's not the plan. They're like, hey guys, like, Dio was hurt. We didn't get to use his flexibility and you didn't get to see that. I don't want to be sold on that, right? And I get Shamar Turner's coming back from an ACL. I don't want to be sold on Shamar. Oh, Shamar Turner is going to be the savior. I don't think we are, but I don't value that. And I don't entertain that conversation maybe it's some do, but you hear that a lot kind of floating around.
I think it's so overrated. Honestly, I think it's so overrated because yeah, guys can do that, but is that where you want to play? Is that what they're at their best? Like the Deo conversation drove me crazy because I like he did play a lot in the interior. Did he do anything on the interior? No. Like he was like just at maybe he was a little better, but it wasn't a needle moving decision to hey, he is like a different player on the interior versus playing on the edge. I'm trying to think of a player that's been like that throughout his career. Calais Campbell, that's a great example. Okay, when you move him to the interior, he's actually a way better player. Like just like based on like how he's created as a man, like he's just ginormous, not super explosive as an edge rusher to someone to beat an offensive tackle to their outside shoulder. Yeah, sure. Move him to the interior, he'll kick ass. Deo never saw that. I just like didn't think he had the pass rush chops wherever he lined up. I just like didn't think he was a consistently an impact player. So just because he can doesn't mean you should value that. A lot of guys can. It's whether or not do they make a difference. Like, do they actually aid your defensive line with that versatility? The guy we're going to talk about a guy in this draft class who I think that's actually very much the case. Like a guy you could basically line up anywhere and he whoops ass. And we'll talk about that guy. But he's actually one I'm like, okay, I'm actually on board. Like you could really build a pass rush package around this guy because he is so versatile and he's showing he can win from basically any alignment. And I'm really excited to talk about him. But yes, I think it's a totally overrated skill. I remember in like 2023, I think that draft class was a full of these guys, Lucas Van Ness, Keon White, like all those guys, like, oh, you can play them on the inside. Well, do they actually do anything on the inside is the question you need to be asking yourself.
You know who I think is the best example of that? I think he was a top 5 pick, if I remember correctly, is a Solomon Thomas, right? Yes. He is like the perfect example of you were sold on that logic. And throughout his career, solid player, don't get me wrong. But he's always been a tweener on either position, on the edge or inside. So like you talked yourself into something of value just because he had the athletic profile and like the size, but he didn't have the film and the dominant aspect on either end there. So yeah, that's one of those things I just wanted to touch up on. Like that's not going to be the savior, right? That's not wait a minute. You have now, have contributors, you have solid depth. No, I don't want to be sold on that.
For sure. Yeah, most definitely, Snyder. All right, let's talk about the free agency. And Snyder, to be honest, there's not a lot of great options. Like this is not a good free agency class for the interior defensive line. I think it's very much the class where you're just signing guys to 1-year deals to kind of bolster this thing and just get some competent players. Like if they signed DJ Reader is PFF's top free agent. He's ranked 20th. I could see like that signing kind of makes sense. He's a run defending first type of defensive lineman. I know Dennis Allen wants guys to get up the field, but if you just want someone to just kind of make this thing competent, I can see that, right? He's projected for 1 year, $4.5 million. That's exactly the kind of thing, or the kind of price range I'm expecting them to be. David Onyemata had a really good season with the Falcons this past year, which is surprising. He's 33 years old. He's projected for 1 year, $3.5 million. He has history with Dennis Allen in New Orleans. So I could see also that. But again, we talk about these older guys. I'm not giving them a lot of long-term money. That's how I'm treating this free agency class. It is 1 year mercenary type deals. You're not finding a future starter, or I guess a starter for the future in this free agent group, unless anything changes drastically, like someone who we didn't expect to get cut gets cut. I just don't think you're searching the waters to find a long-term answer.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? We talk about who we have in place. Even though we need improvements there, I feel like the improvements in free agency aren't even much better than what we have, right?
Right.
It's like you don't want to take the same approach and really put some money in there, even if it's $7 million, $10 million on some of these guys. Did you actually really get any better in the group? Not really.
Yeah, it's not a good group, and honestly, I think it's going to be one that they're going to have to kind of set, or if they want to really, really improve it, they're going to have to set their sights in the draft. And I'm not to the level where I want to be in terms of talking about some of these prospects. We're going to talk about one who's been a very popular name for the Bears, but I think that's the direction they're going to have to go. And right now I'm looking at it. Dane Brugler has 9 interior defensive linemen in his top 100. So, I mean, that's a decently strong class. There's definitely stronger positions in terms of who he has. And look, I'm not saying he's the gospel or anything, but it's a decently strong class. And I'm sure they're going to have, from the mock drafts that I've seen, they're going to have a lot of options at 25 specifically if they want to go that route. And I think it's one they should consider. Just some free agent names I think to keep an eye out on. I think that Sheldon Rankins for the Texans this past year, he had a nice bounce back year. He has experience with Dennis Allen. He's projected 1 year, $7.5 million. He's 30. He's going to be 32 this year. So again, not the youngest player in the world. John Franklin Myers, he's actually been one of these players, Snyder, that can play on the edge and is probably better in the interior. He's had some strong seasons. He's coming off kind of a down season this year, but he's probably projected for the most money among this group, 3 years, $15 million per year. I don't know if the Bears will be in that market, but someone to kind of keep your eye on. I could see him being a fit. I don't want them to keep going after these like tweener guys because they have so many for this following year. But I think those are kind of the names I'm looking out for. I guess maybe the last name is Tim Settle, who's more of an explosive nose tackle. He's a guy who can get up the field for being the big guy that he is. And I think he'd cost you very, very minimal dollars. So that's kind of the guys I'm looking at. Again, you're not going to, I don't think, solve the issue with this free agency group.
No, maybe just raising the floor a little bit more, very, very marginally. But yeah, I'm not excited about this free agency class as well. I think you're gonna have to hope some guys do become cap casualties, or you get creative in a trade, like how you did maybe with Joe Tooney, right? Find that guy that, I don't want to say diamond in the rough, but find that guy who's okay. Yeah, he's a little bit older. Look at a team that needs to save some cap that's tight against the cap, and maybe you might find someone like that. I mean, that's probably the process that I'd be exploring.
Because even if you draft someone, this is not a position where guys hit the ground running. I mean, if you just look at this past class, I think people were held this last class in high regard. I think Mason Graham, Kenneth Grant, Walter Nolan, all those guys, it was a pretty exciting class. And outside of Walter Nolan, who got hurt, I don't think any one of these guys came in and dominated. Like, I think they all had their issues. I mean, Kenneth Grant had a lot of issues. So, I don't think it's a position you're expecting guys to come in right away and dominate. And maybe that can transition to the guys we want to talk about. Maybe, let's start with Caden McDonald from Ohio State, who has been an extremely popular selection for the Bears. Senator, do you know anything about Caden McDonald? Like, where are you at on terms of like who people are mocking to the Bears right now?
You know what, Tom? I am behind on that. I really need to start getting into it. So not much.
So he really, he was a starter last year, but he really took on the role of being like the anchor against for their run defense because, Tyler Williams left. They changed defensive coordinators. He was really asked to just really be the stalwart of the middle of that defense. He's a true junior. He played the most snaps of his career this year, 448 snaps. He's listed on PFF's site as 6'3", 326 pounds. But he doesn't look like he's got a lot of bad weight on him. For being that big, he looks pretty rocked up. Like, this is a strong-ass dude. And when I watch him, he is like teach tape, run defense, like stack, shed, two-gapping. It's all great. He fires off the ball low. He can control blocks. He can control like just two gaps at a time. He makes plays at the line of scrimmage. He makes plays in the backfield. I like him a lot more than I liked Tyleik Williams last year because I think his technique is way better, and I think he's got longer arms. And you just see that on tape over and over and over again. I don't think I've seen a rep where he gets moved off the ball, even against double teams. He might not control blocks against double teams, but you're not moving this guy because he plays so low. He fires out into gaps. And you also see at times, I don't know if he's the best athlete in the world, but you do see at times that he can get the backfield and make some plays behind the line of scrimmage. He works a club swim move that's pretty nice. I wish it was more consistent. So I think if the Bears outset was kind of like, I don't think it's the correct one, but if the Bears outset was like the 49ers last year, hey, we're just going to get really stout up front and you're not going to push us around and we're just going to draft a bunch of great run defenders. If he's an option, he's probably the option at 25 because you're not pushing this guy around. He is that good of a run defender. He is like as as teach tape of technique I've seen in a very, very long time. The problem is he's been basically underwhelming to like non-existent as a pass rusher throughout his career. I'm curious to see how he tests. Maybe he'll show more than I see on tape in terms of athleticism. That's the thing with him. I don't know if he just doesn't know how to rush the passer or if he's just not the athlete. Because even when, this guy profiles more as more of a nose tackle, more of as an early down player, you expect those guys to have like a bit of a bull rush because they're so strong that they can just overpower people and push them in the laps of quarterbacks. I don't even see that, to be honest. He looks pretty clueless as a pass rusher. Like there's just not a lot of plan to his game. And I definitely have some questions if that will ever come along. If he shows he's more athletic at the combine and Ohio State didn't allow him to just pin his ears back, which is very possible. They could be like, you're the middle, you're going to be like the fire hydrant of this defense that you're going to read, react, really hold up against the run, play the run first. That could very well be the case. And they didn't let him off the leash. So if he shows that at the combine, but from what I'm seeing right now, I don't see another worldly athlete. And I just like, whenever I'm considering someone in the first round, like I wish you had that potential at the very least, let alone he does not have the production, have that potential to be more of a 3-down player.
But then again, you could tell yourself, hey, he has such a high floor as a run defender. He's such a technician. You feel good. It's not just a projection, right? It's not like the Gervon Dexter, like he's super athletic. He'll have a high floor. This guy actually has the instincts, the IQ, and the technique. Yep. I'm kind of just quickly looking over him. I'm kind of doing some PFF advanced stat scouting right there. The pass rush is non-existent. It's a 4% pass rush win rate there, but hopefully, it is just the scheme and what he was asked to do, and maybe there is some untapped potential there. But again, what the Bears need is they need somewhere to be. They need defensive tackle, right? It's going to be very hard to find the complete package, pass rush and run defender at 25 in the draft. That typically never happens. That's not what I'm asking. But if you could find an elite run defender at 25, that's extremely valuable to where the Bears are at as a team. You need to beef up that defensive line so you can kind of get away and do things more defensively, schematically. Let Dennis Allen do what actually wants to do. So when you describe this player that can kind of come in and just be that technician, be that stout run defender, I'm game with that because I think it's a safe pick and it's a high floor pick. And maybe there is some untapped potential there.
Yeah, I think the combine's going to be big for him. Like, can he show that he has at least the tools to get more out of him as a pass rusher? There was he had a nice club swim move as a pass rusher where I was like, okay, like if he can figure this out and really like attack the half of offensive linemen. That's the thing. He kind of just rushes down the middle with no plan. And I don't know if that's in like an athleticism thing or if he just doesn't know what he's doing. Which I'd be shocked at Ohio State if he didn't know what he's doing. He could just be being asked that, like hold the integrity of the pocket, just rush down the middle. That very well could be the case. I don't know enough to have an opinion one way or the other, but I didn't see a super athletic guy on tape, and I just never love betting on the type of production he's had as a pass rusher to expect that to be all of a sudden different in the league. I think that tends to be a bad bet more times than not. But at the same time, we talk about like beefing up your defensive line and just like having stouter guys. Not only does he just like raise the floor of your run defense unit, he's like an actively dominant run defender. Like he's pushing guys in the back of the line of scrimmage and he's making plays. Center this year, only 3.3% missed tackle rate. He finishes plays. Like he's not just holding his gap. He's actively finding the ball, making tackles. He's as good as it gets. Like I really, really was impressed by his run defense tape. And it's not typically what Dennis Allen has gone for in the past. We saw it last year. They went for Grady Jarrett, Shamar Turner. He likes undersized, explosive guys. So again, I don't know if he'll really be on the Bears' radar from that regard. But again, they could just be like, nope, we're putting a line in the sand. We're getting better up front to at least stop the run. I could definitely see him being an option if that's the case they want to go.
Yeah, I like what I'm hearing. Totally game for it. I just think there needs to be a different mindset, right? Maybe in a couple years past, maybe you need to take a swing on a Gervon Dexter with the more upside and of that nature. Now you need that high floor guy, and with the Bears in particular, struggling so much on the interior, I think this feels a major need, and it's a valuable need, right? Like, you're going to be able to do a lot more. You're not going to get, ran down your throat. You're not going to see, Josh Jacobs, Kyron Williams run for, 6-7 yards per game. That stuff is valuable when it comes late into the season, into the playoff game. I know from a team building aspect on the beginning part, those aren't the guys that you're trying to chase, right? Now, those guys will make that impact late into the season when you're getting against these better running schemes, against these better running backs. You can't make deep playoff runs if you're allowing 6-7 yards per rush. And when it comes to the defensive line, you mentioned all the stats, on defensive tackle, all the stats. They're really bad against the run defense. I mean, and if you're averaging even 5, 6, 7 yards per carry against it, just you're in so many second and shorts. You're in so many neutral spots, and it makes it harder to play defense. If you can have a guy who can clog that up on those early downs, now 2nd and 10s and everything like that, that's what it brings. So at this level of where the Bears are at as a team, I'm totally game bringing a player like this that raises that floor like that.
Most definitely. I think you hit on a lot of important things there. And we just, at the beginning of the show, we talked about like teams want to defend the run with light boxes. They don't want to dedicate more bodies. It allows you to do a lot more on the back end if you're able to do that. And the Bears can't, right? And so if they feel like McDonald is the guy that's going to unlock that for them, then I definitely see that like being a really good reason to make that pick. If he tests like way better than I'm expecting at the combine, or just like way more than I saw on tape, I think it's a very real outcome that he could be one of these better athletes that just like wasn't able to show that. I'm 100% game for this pick, and I'd be a lot more about it. Let's transition to the next guy though, because he is so fascinating. It's not a defensive lineman or interior defensive lineman. It's an edge rusher, but he does play a little bit of everything. That is Miami's Akeem Mesidor. Snyder, it is actually insane when you watch Miami's defensive line. They're coached by Jason Taylor, Hall of Famer. How polished these guys are. There is just no wasted movement in the get off. They got pass rush moves on pass rush moves. They tie their feet to their rush. That is like an NFL next level thing where they're getting offensive tackles off kilter with their leg movement and like Euro stepping, jab stepping to open them up and get them where they want to go. And then they got the pass rush moves with their hands on top of it to really aid them to cleaner wins. I mean, when you watch Mesidor, he is like one of the most polished pass rushers I've ever watched. He's got moves on moves, counters, all of it. He's got a full bag of moves that he can work against basically anyone, guards, tackles. That's the thing that's really great about him. He almost looks at his best when he's kicking inside as a sub rusher. Guards can't hang with him. They just can't hang with him. He's so good at not allowing guys to get clean shots on his chest. He's always so low to the ground. He's reducing that surface area, and he's always moving around. So it just feels like he's always a moving target for guards who can't move as well, and he's just whooping them. Like, he's clean wins right up the middle. Like, a guy I think could really provide some pass rush juice, especially as a sub rusher. There's some concerns with him, no doubt. And the biggest one you got to mention, he's going to be 25 as a rookie. And he had his best season this past year as a 6-year senior. But I think what would ease my concerns with him a little is like, this is not Tyree Wilson. This is not a guy who's just getting by with his athleticism. Yeah. He's actually winning with real deal moves and in the highest leverage situations. Like, when it was fourth quarter, we need a bucket, this dude was making it happen. Like, he's coming consistently in those situations. He's just winning over and over and over and over again.
Yeah, that's an interesting one, man. Not everyone likes the older guys, especially when you broke in. But, man, when you're being coached by Jason Taylor and you're showing that much in your arsenal as a technician, your instincts and everything. I mean, I'm looking at the pass rush win percent, 20%. The run defense, great. Aligned with the pass defense, great. It looks like you could get maybe a steal because of the age and get that instant production. Those guys do tend to age like fine wine. So it might work out. That's an interesting one.
So the thing is too, the Bears are not in they're not in full rebuild mode. Like they're in a
That's the
compete
thing.
mode
Yep.
too. So like I don't think the conversation isn't like the Bears of 2 years ago. Like, do you want to draft a 25-year-old where you're probably not going to give him a second contract? Now, you're not expecting to give him a second. I mean, 29 as a second contract player, that's a hard pill to swallow. So I don't think they're in that situation though. You're in a situation where you're looking for guys that can help you right away. Messidor to me is a guy that can help you right away because he knows exactly what he's doing. Now, he's not without his flaws beyond just the age. I don't think he's a great athlete. I think he's a marginal athlete. If he tests well enough, I'm on board because he's shown he can win in other ways. There's definitely thresholds he needs to hit, but I don't think he's the greatest athlete. I think I worry about him as a true edge rusher because he just doesn't seem very explosive to like consistently threaten tackles to their outside edge. And then also, I don't think he has a really great speed to power rush, but he does a really good job at hiding those things with how technical he is. And also, too, Snyder, this guy's get off, no wasted movement. He's anticipating the snap count. He's giving himself edges because of his football IQ. And again, that's a player I think that can help the Bears right away. And he just gives something the Bears don't have: quick wins. Like that's what he does. He wins quick. He just deconstructs blocks. Like that's what he is as a player. And I think he's someone you can legitimately consider at 25 for all of these reasons.
Yeah, I like that, man. I think, Tom, my biggest takeaway here, I think we figured out how you got to fix the defensive line. I feel like we're going to talk about edges next. I like the edge free agency class. I'm not going to get into that, but I would love to find a way to sign one of those guys just off the street where you're not paying any capital. We're going to have to draft a defensive tackle in round 1 or 2. And I think you're going to have to maybe trade for a guy, maybe using that like Joe Tooney method, like maybe a 3, maybe a 4. And I think you could find a way to add 3 bodies in there. Maybe you restructure Sweat. You keep Booker as a rotation piece. And I think you could figure it out in one off season with that method there.
Yeah, most doubt. No, definitely. And I think I'm telling you right now, I think McDonald, Messor, these are going to be names you're going to keep hearing. Along with the different avenues we had discussed about adding talent to this room, those are going to be guys that you're going to keep hearing because I think that they definitely make sense for what the Bears need. But it's going to be interesting to see how they approach it. Remember, too, Steiner, Ryan Poles acts fast. Those interior offensive line trades happen before free agency even open. So I'm expecting some major shakeups soon. Like at the beginning of March or even late February, I'm expecting those moves to happen.
Yeah, I'm game time. I think this unit can get overhauled. I know a lot of people said we are very tight against the cap, but there is a lot of maneuvering to do, and I think you can still do it in a responsible way. We'll get into that in a different episode. But other than that, Tom, I got a jet. Unless you had anything else.
No, that's all I had. We will be back to talk more offseason, y'all. So until we meet again, keep it real. Bear down.
Bear down.